ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to Infection Podcast. We cover the intersection, not the intersexuality or any sort of other sexuality of the video game industry and the modern political culture industry as well. My name is Nick Craig. You can give me a follow on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig or check out our website, infectionpodcast.com. You got to be careful, Brian, with these sectionals. I read the newspaper and I'm like, oh, the A-sectional, the B-sectional, the intrasectional, the bi... it just goes all over the place.
Well, I guess we are going to be covering the sexuality of some video games today, but so I guess that is true.
Accurate.
Yeah, welcome to the new age. If you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter or at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, Getter, Truth Social, and all the other places. So yeah,
Brian...
Well, hey... Yeah. How could there possibly be a segue from that a topic?
We, for the longest time, you and I both, I think you and I both fall in a similar political spectrum. And, for the longest time, we just, we didn't really talk about it. Yeah, we'd let it bleed into a conversation then here or there. But we made it a really big point not to be a big deal. But it seemed like every single week would go by and we would just get beaten in the head with some ridiculous, social nonsense, some political nonsense bleeding its way into the video game industry or the tech industry. And it has gone from somewhat apparent to seemingly the norm now, where discussing sexuality in a freaking video game is somehow a big deal.
Fake characters. Yeah.
And that's exactly what we've got with the new season of Overwatch that launched today, right?
Yep. So, of course, now this is something that is kind of new because they did, I think the one Frost hero, the one that lays down the snowballs.
The snowball? Yeah.
Well, I don't remember her name, but
May or Maya or something like that, I think.
Maya or something. Mia. She's supposed to be lesbian.
Oh,
of course.
Right.
That's something that came out after the fact. Now, how that's supposed to be indicated in any way, I don't know. But here they have what they call their first confirmed queer upon reveal. I think that's why they put upon reveal, because she became lesbian later. Once they started filling in her backstory and meeting a quota. Yes. Here, this is the first one they said from the get-go. This person is pansexual.
Oh, wait. I got to get my definition. What does that mean?
Hey, hold on. I
wait, well, the current definition, because it's changed.
Okay, so what are we now?
So the character's name is Lifeweaver. That's Overwatch's 37th hero, which, by the way, is remarkable. That Overwatch has always been a great game. I assume it still is. It's a support character who specializes in plant-based technology, very green and eco-friendly, to heal and protect his teammates. He's a fugitive on the run from the Vekaskar Corporation, who was close to DPS character, blah, 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 so on and so forth, in the game. In a roundtable interview with members of the Overwatch 2 team, lead narrative designer Gavin Jurgens-Fiery explained that having Lifeweaver's identity front and center was important to the team and was a key takeaway when consulting members of the queer community on his portrayal.
So I have the definition of pansexual. Please. So sexually or romantically attracted to people regardless of their sex or gender.
So he's bi.
Well, they're open to more than just male and female.
You're right. Excuse me. My deepest apologies.
It could be a deer person. It could be anything that you can throw at them. Yeah, it could be that one. Anything you can think of to throw at it, they're ready. That's what that means, right? Jesus. I mean, anything they're down for. So
Jurgens went on to say, representation has always been really important to this team, and we've been looking for ways to express that more. So I think in terms of Lifeweaver, when we were initially discussing this, we wanted a pansexual character, and the approach that everyone was happy with was that he would be an openly pansexual character. Now let me put a pause and a little pin in this right here. In a game with a story, like The Last of Us, for example, or any game, Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto, sexuality is, and it can be, an important part of the game because it is a story, and there are things that happen in the story that could be based on sexuality, the same way that it is in movies and television. It's part of character development. Sometimes it's relevant. When it is, great. When it's not, I don't need to see it. It doesn't need to be included. But in a multiplayer game like Overwatch, there is no character development, Brian. It's a freaking first-person shooter. There is no story. There is no campaign. You just jump into a match and scream obscenities at other people in the public lobby. I don't understand.
Pretty much.
It's shoehorning sexuality into something where it doesn't need to be.
There's another gay man male. I don't know.
Well, that's controversial whether he's actually gay or not. There's a controversy there, Brian.
The Soldier 76 is also they made him gay as well.
But that was but that came after the fact also, and they weren't happy about that.
That wasn't on launch. Yeah.
That was not on launch, and as Kotaku writes, Overwatch has a complicated queer history, which is quite the tagline to be writing. It's a very tough thing, and they've got a picture here of Soldier 70. I don't know what they've got. Some fan art here of two characters kissing. I don't really understand what's going on.
That's from Blizzard Entertainment, so that's an official.
But one of them is a girl. I presume both of them look like women. So that's Scout. That's the other one.
Which one are you looking at? Oh, I'm down a little bit farther.
Yeah. So this one. I mean, that's the other. That's the little like ninja looking, or not. That's the lady with the little gun that darts back and forth. I don't remember what her name is.
Yeah.
Here's
Tracer.
the thing.
That one's Tracer.
Yeah, so Tracer. And then this makes him gay because there's a picture of him and his friend. Yeah. Brian, I guess you and I have some explaining to do based on that picture.
Yeah, we get pictures like that. Sleeping in the same bed. What's going on?
I mean, good Lord. So here's the thing. I don't care if there's sexuality in a video game, television, or movie. What I care about is when it is unnecessary and when it is pushed in to gaslight the mentally ill LGBTQ community into thinking they have an ally in Overwatch. Again, television, movies, whatever, anything with story and character development, I don't care. If part of the story is that somebody is gay, great. Somebody is trans, great. Somebody is some other stupid mentally ill acronym, great. I don't care. But when you take something like Overwatch, where it doesn't seemingly have any impact at all, I don't understand. It's gaslighting and it's virtue signaling.
Well, and that's where I don't understand why sexuality needs to be in these video games, especially when there's kids playing them. You know, why are we pushing sexuality towards kids at all when that, there are, I guess you can look at the past and see how in old TV shows, there was some form of sexuality because there were parents who loved each other and things like that. But these things aren't being put in as this guy's most like, just he comes off as kind of gay. No, they're like, he's sniffing a rose and he's got pink wings on. I mean, they're pushing it to an extreme of, I don't know anybody in my everyday life that has any resemblance to this person. So how is this representation?
Well, you could say that about many other people in Overwatch as well.
Well, yeah, but as far as
point,
this is not representation of a person. Like, this is an idea, and
it's fan fiction.
They're pushing the extreme.
They are, and the funniest part is that quote where it's like, we consulted. What did he say? The queer community or something like that. Like it's a group of people you just write an email to. It's like queer at whatever, and it says everybody just comes up because we consult the community. I find that to be the most offensive thing in all this.
They probably asked some people on their staff, some employees.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to be careful with that. Don't want to get some sort of violation or infraction against you. So, I see both sides of it. There's some folks that say, it doesn't affect the game. Who cares? That's a valid point. And then it's, from my vantage point, it doesn't affect the game. So why do you feel the need to make it something? It's, and some of the commenters are even saying, the fact that they say that he's pansexual and not just apps and just not flat out gay indicates that they're still not happy with it. They're saying that this feels cheap, Brian, that they call him pansexual instead of gay. So that they're not, maybe they're really not an ally.
I just figured this opened him up Yeah. Well, this opened him up to everybody, because if he would have been bisexual, it would only have been people that identify as male or female. If he would have been gay, or as far, as attracted to men, then he would have only been attracted to other men characters, like I assume Soldier 76, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
this was the most like open and least pinned down to one one way as possible. It covered everybody, and so I guess you can't make
Literally
anybody happy all the time.
No, you can't, and that's the moral of the story here is, everybody is still pissed off, nobody's happy anyway, and it's just, to me, it's exactly. I'm not part of any of these communities, Brian, but if I was, I would be constantly frustrated with the fact that companies and games and pop culture media feels that they have to pander to me and my community. Like we're so abnormal that we can't do anything. We can't play a video game without losing our minds over whether a character is gay or not. I mean, it just to me seems like the most offensive thing that you can come up with is just, oh, well, these queer people, these LGBTQ people are just the only way that we can really relate to them is to put one of the 37 characters in our game, and that will make everything all better. To me, it's offensive to normal people that are in these groups and in these communities. It's incredibly offensive.
Well, and one thing you can do is think of it like this, because here's how I look at it and just say, because people say, well, you are represented. Well, okay, when I play Overwatch, is there a father of 4 that is a computer programmer, is that anywhere in there? Am I being represented? Because that's my reality, right? I don't know that I am represented in Overwatch. Should I be mad? Now, who I sleep with or what I choose to do with that shouldn't matter, because that doesn't define who I am. But, are all these other things that people, if they say, who is this guy? Yeah, Bjorn, is that me? The guy's working, got one eye left.
Well, yeah. see, what you're pointing out there is that this is a broader issue of your identity is not based on your sexuality, but so many individuals in these communities, their entire being is the fact that they're LGBTQIAP plus something. That's the only thing.
I mean, I could say I want a hockey player who's a computer programmer, and unless that happens, I'm not feeling represented in this video game. Well, why would I play a video game to try to replicate what my life is? That's a part of being a video game that I think that everybody's losing the focus on, is that video games are for leaving your reality and doing something different. Now, in The Sims recently, they added blindness to Sims, so you could make your Sim blind. Okay, it's because they want to represent that. I think also they have ones with hearing aids so that you can make someone who looks like you. Now, a guy smelling a rose, with fairy wings, does that really represent who you are? I mean, honestly, that's what we're talking about in this picture.
Have you ever been?
Does that represent you?
Can I present you PAX West 2019?
Okay, yeah. So I understand that could be argued that yes, that does represent you, but that doesn't literally represent the person that you are. You can shave the head of a bald person. You can have not wear any clothes, and guess what? You'll be like, okay, that person's blind. You take all those other things away from most of these other people unless they have modified themselves in certain ways, and you won't be able to tell that person is what they say they are, right? They asked an anthropologist or a biologist, it was some form of it, if you could tell if somebody was a male or female after they were dead by their bones, and they tried to claim no.
Yes,
and everybody laughed at them. These guys are trying to make it seem like that there is no difference and you are whatever you say you are, but that's not the reality of it. I am certain things, and part of it's my personality, part of it's who what I was born as. But you know what? I don't expect that everything that I watch have a version of me in it. And now, but there was a day when there was hardly any representation to them. But now they've made it to where there's a million options. How can you represent a million options? It's by taking it over, and that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
There can be nothing else but those, because how are you going to fit every single option when it does, and that doesn't represent what society's layout of people are. They're overrepresented in most of these things now compared to their percentage of population.
Bingo.
And that used to be. That's not representation.
It's not.
You're demanding to be highly overrepresented, and which means that whoever was being represented is being now underrepresented. So don't you think that if you have a thing where there's a whole cast of characters, if 75% of your audience or 80% of your audience identifies to a certain part, and you make it to where that's not even really there, you're shorting 75 to 80% of your audience. If representation is what matters, I don't think that it's what matters, but they're saying that it matters. Well, if it matters, why does it only matter? Why should it only be that you get that? Because my kids aren't represented in Overwatch. I'm not represented in Overwatch.
Right, your congressman.
I don't remember a radio host being represented in Overwatch.
Why the only television I watch is Joe Rogan's Talk Radio and WKRP from Cincinnati. Those are the only two shows that I watch on loop every night. So
you can be represented. Then
cry
you feel
myself
part
to
of the
sleep.
community.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I do every night. I just the gaslighting and the virtue signaling is just ridiculous. So I guess congratulations. I mean, I guess I don't really know where you go from there.
Well, okay, here we got one more thing. So the original Mario movie was Mario was played by was John Leguizamo, I think it is.
Yeah,
pronounced like that. And he says he is not going to watch this new one because he does not feel there's a lack of representation
Jesus Christ.
I think it was maybe Latinos or something like that. But he said that he didn't feel that there was a lack of representation. Now, aren't these Italian plumbers? I thought that these are.
They are.
Maybe he's so what? Now Latin. So he's upset that there weren't enough Latin folks in it.
I didn't realize Mario.
But this is based on Italian plumbers.
Yeah, that's how I understood it.
And I mean the mushroom can be whatever you want him to be, right? Then you've got the princess. Without changing the characters that were in there, how are you going to? I mean, you could create new characters, but why is it so important that in this one film there's a bunch of Latin characters? And why are you refusing to watch it?
The 1993 movie is garbage. That Mario movie sucks. Now, I have not seen the new one.
This one I've heard is doing very well.
Apparently phenomenally well. Now, the critics hate it because, it doesn't check all these boxes or whatever. It's not overtly political and feeding some stupid-ass narrative. But the Rotten Tomato fan score is like through the roof. It's had the biggest box office weekend for any video game movie, which are almost always atrocious. It seems like somebody's actually done a decent video game related movie, which is a very odd thing because normally that's not the case at all.
And here's a quote from him. So I'll give what he told TMZ on Wednesday. See, they messed up. Hey, thank you, UGX. He says they messed up the inclusion. They de-included or disincluded. Just cast some Latin folks. We're 20% of the population, the largest people of color group, and we're underrepresented, overrepresented in the worst kind of jobs, though. So that was his quote on this.
Well,
so now he's bringing up the 20%.
This is all you need to know. 57% of the critics think it's good. 96% of the audience thinks
that usually means it's awesome. The critics think it's horrible.
Awesome. Yeah.
And people think it's great. That means that it's right on track.
Yeah, that's typically what you want. So now he was, I believe he was Luigi in the original movie in 1993. Yes. So that's what's pissing him off. But yeah, from what my understanding has always been that it has been two Italian brothers, the Mario brothers.
I mean that's why they talk. That's why they talk the way they did prior to this movie. I heard that they Chris Pratt, they did do reads of him doing the Italian accent, and they said it sounded like The Sopranos.
Yeah, I can't.
So that's why he just talks normally.
I guess I need to go see it at some point. But that to me is rather interesting. Thanks.
Well,
it's a very salient point. Appreciate it.
Let's talk a little bit about. Let's continue with the Nintendo things that are happening right now.
Sure.
One thing that has happened is Nintendo is subpoenaing Discord for leaks that are happening from their Tears of the Kingdom that are happening, and so they're going to court and they're going to try to find out information so they can figure out who this Julian2743 is.
Oh, jeez.
So that person posted some things that I guess no one else had, and so they're figuring that this is the person who has the source of the details, and so they're going to court to try to get details on who this person is. It seems like Discord is becoming the place to leak things. It's becoming the public square of sharing.
Well,
because this used to be like Reddit and things like that you would see all these things coming out of.
It used to be IRC and forums back in the
originally,
in the days. Yeah, and now it's all Discord combines literally all of those features into one app, and I'll tell you what, the result of this is either going to be really good or really bad. It's going to determine what logs Discord is keeping. If I'm Discord, I'm keeping none of these logs because this is a very, very dangerous rabbit hole of, this isn't even illegal information. This is not like anything that is a felony or anything like that. Or I guess you could claim stolen too, but we're not talking about, we're not talking about any sort of illicit activity. We're talking about leaks from a freaking Zelda game. And Nintendo is now Nintendo does not have a great track record of, they have a great track record of suing YouTube creators for playing video games that they bought, and uploading them to their YouTube channels. So this to me might be a frivolous lawsuit, but it'll be interesting to see if a court requires them to turn over some of that information. That's dangerous.
Well, I mean, that may be the landmark case to do it, but I'm having my guess is that the leak on Discord of classified U.S. documents are more likely to be what really kind of tests what Discord tracks and doesn't track, because this has been a big deal of, was it images or something that had numbers on it?
So the
that
details
seem to be real.
Yeah. So this has kind of exploded over the last couple of days, and it surrounds apparently a March 1st brief. Every morning in the United States, the president, even as incompetent as he may be, gets a classified briefing, and it's just a general overview of what's going on today, kind of things. And obviously there's this little thing you may have heard about over in Ukraine in which Russia is attempting to, take over their country, and we're shoveling billions of dollars into it. Nevertheless, apparently on a Minecraft Discord server, somebody posted not the original documents themselves, but actually pictures of the documents apparently spread out on a table, and they showed some things like the fact that South Korea has been providing some armament to Ukraine that was not supposed to be public information, and some other alleged classified info. And this is actually a big deal. Some stupid ass leak from a Zelda book is irrelevant. This is a big deal. These are highly classified documents that made their way onto a Minecraft Discord server. Well,
and I think part of the embarrassment from if these are the same I've been trying to find pictures referencing. Earlier I had found some pictures of a similar thing, and it seemed like they contradicted the numbers that the U.S. has been telling people.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming these are the same story, because I saw another story talking about how there was a leaked document, and it was indicating that the Russians are doing much better than what we have been told. Because we've been told, the Russians are being embarrassed, their casualties are super high, all these different things. And this seemed to have gone against that. And if you look at the picture of the one that we have seen, supposedly, it looks like they photoshopped or inverted numbers and things on the other one that that we were allowed to see. I don't know if it's the official numbers, but this is saying that the Russians are doing much better. The casualties of the Ukrainians is much higher, which the worry is, I think, for the U.S. government and why they're really, if they are trying to push fake numbers, most likely would be because they want to justify all this money, the billions and hundreds of billions of dollars that we're sending over. I don't know if it's trillions, but all that we're sending over is for a cause, like a reason, that it's making some effect. And if us sending and pretty much bankrolling this war is not making an effect to where we're actually winning, well, what happens next when Russia wins? What is a win to Russia? I mean, if they take Ukraine, are we just going to say, okay, well, you got it, good game? Or does that mean that they're going to try to escalate it here and say, well, now we need to step in and take it back? And that's my concern, is you're lying to the people. Let them know what the reality of this is so we can decide if we want to continue in this race. If we want to continue, which I don't remember ever being asked by the government in any kind of a vote if I wanted to bankroll a war. But maybe if the numbers were real and people knew that Ukraine isn't really doing that well, either they would decide they want to bankroll it more, or they'd say, hey, we don't, this isn't our deal. They're not a NATO nation. Like, why should we be making sure this nation that's not allied to us wins?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's to me, that's a whole completely different conversation. The question here is, and I'm not going to show the picture of it because I don't feel that it's necessary.
I don't know whether, yeah.
But it was posted in the Minecraft Earth Map Discord server under the channel Map Showcase, and this guy responds with, "Here are some leaked documents," and it's just this treasure trove of pictures. Obviously, the first reaction to people is, "Oh, Edward Snowden," right? I mean, that guy, left with millions of documents.
He's now a Russian citizen.
Yeah, the feds are trying to lock him up, and Trump was supposed to pardon him. That's another thing he failed to do. So that's kind of what's coming to a lot of people's minds. But to me, the bigger concern here is, how the hell is this stuff getting out? Like, who is apparently from what I've heard, and the reporting is all quite limited, but from what I heard this morning, these documents can only be produced on secure printers and can only be printed from secure devices that have access. This is not emailed around in a PDF to anybody to look at. These things are very, very tightly locked down. And the fact that they were printed, which apparently they're normally done on like an iPad or some sort of other digital device, because without physical paper, your leak percentage is a lot less, right? You don't have to worry about it getting put in a garbage can and it getting pulled out of a dumpster somewhere. So somebody had to print these and then photograph them, and they're on some sort of wooden workbench. But to me, it's like, who the hell, who is in these briefings, and who is having access to this information? That to me is the bigger problem here. This is really, really sensitive information.
Well, and this is kind of an Edward Snowden type of situation, because if we're being lied to, and this is the same thing, this has happened multiple times, some secret of the government gets out, people say, I can't believe this is happening, and they're horrified by what they learn, and then the government turns that person into a villain. And then you've got one who's now is locked up, another one who is in another country, he's a Russian citizen now. You've got multiple of these leakers, and was it good or was it bad? I think is kind of the question. Yeah. This person's making it apparent, if it's legitimate, that the government is lying to you about the numbers and actually falsifying the numbers that they're telling you of the war. Okay, that's good information to know, but it's bad that things that are supposed to be secret, because let's say we were in a war, which we kind of are, you wouldn't want your plans being leaked.
Sure.
Because that puts your men at risk. Now, this wasn't necessarily location information and things like that, but of course it did put a country on, right up in front, and they're having to answer to, okay, well, we're supposedly not financing this war, but we are. But I think they should be open. Like, I think the whole secretive part of it, if we're going against Russia, say it. Quit hiding behind things. If this many people are dying, say it, because if people really care, they'll say, well, we need to do more, rather than lying to the American people. Same thing happened in Vietnam. We were losing. The Americans were being lied to and told that we're doing all right. And then all of a sudden the whole place falls, and they escape out.
Yeah.
They should have been honest from the get-go, because then you could have made the decision. Do we want to stay in this? Do we want so many lives to be lost? And especially if we're going to make a decision on putting our kids into going to war here, I want to know the truth on this. So I don't know. I'm kind of split. I appreciate it happening as long as it's because it's for a good reason. I don't know the reasons behind this, for this person doing it.
Well, and some of the question has been, and now, take it for what it's worth, but some of the questions have been, are all of these documents authentic, or were some of these modified and then uploaded or taken?
Which one's real?
Exactly, and we don't know. One of the other things that I find that's interesting with this, not related to this topic at all, but back to the Nintendo situation, what does Discord do in this case? Because damn well that
one's
some
breaking a law, the other one is a minor law. It's not, you could ban somebody's account for it, but are you going to really go to court, and break that trust with your users over it?
I'm not even worried about court as much as I am them hauling the Discord folks in front of some sort of Senate Judiciary Committee or House Judiciary Committee. And what kind of, and by the way, it's being described as a gaming website. I kept hearing that this morning on Fox News. They kept saying it was documents on a gaming website. I was like, what is this, some form? And it was, turns out it was Discord. What information are they storing? Are they storing chat logs?
I'm sure they are to a point.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so what kind of other information?
The file size limit, so people are going to be sharing, because I think it is 25 megs or something like that.
It used to be
now?
8.
Yeah, now it's 25 or something like that.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
Yeah, so, people will be starting to use it to send bigger files back and forth. They're not going to want to have to log all of that, so that may be a good justification to say, well, we don't have room to log all this information, so we're going to have to keep a 24-hour or 48-hour history, start dropping things off. But maybe by law, is that one thing I've learned is the government will go to these places and say, hey, we expect this of you. Yes. And it could be they're piping logs to some offsite facility or some whatever on site and actually tracking all this, and it's not on their hardware, it's on the government's hardware. I would not be surprised if something like that were happening.
And that to me, from a privacy standpoint, from a just usability standpoint, is a real question. Is what kind of information is this a group like this keeping? Not that I'm using Discord for a nefarious purpose. I'm pretty confident you're not either, Brian, but it just comes down to the premise of what exactly are we doing? And what information are we making available to a company like Discord? I think that's a valid concern, and it's why apps like Signal are so popular.
Yeah.
It's like why programs like WhatsApp are so popular because of some of those.
Snapchat people think that it drops off. I don't know how much they actually log.
Oh, they store all of it. I have a feeling
they probably do. Yeah, they keep a copy of it. But a lot of people liked that because they felt like it disappeared. Well, in reality, it may be a lot like kind of the Snapchat situation, to where you feel like it disappears, and I deleted it, it's gone. All that stuff's probably still saved. So I think people should always be accountable for them, as far as how they act. That's one kind of the downsides of the anonymity of the internet, is that people will be jerks. That's one reason why I use my real names on social media, because it makes me act different. If I were anonymous, where my name and profile picture gave no indication of who I really was, I'd be more likely to say something rude and hurtful to somebody, right? So
Wait.
I keep my name on there so that I'm held to a certain standard.
Don't we have a YouTube video on our channel of you running around a Gary's Mod lobby making fun of a child?
That was at Boise Computer, or that was whatever it was. So that
Boise, that was Infected Brian was your username. That was not anonymous at all.
Yeah, but first names. Yeah, I mean, they could track me down if they wanted to.
Yeah,
I was just helping him.
Yeah, of course. I'm providing him very useful insight about the CSS hacks and all of those other interesting things. There is a serious question about privacy in this country. Yep. I know there's some people that go, well, privacy, you have a freaking iPhone. You use freaking Gmail. Yeah, okay, yes, those are all accurate statements. That doesn't mean that I can't have an opinion or care about privacy. I mean, there is a level of that I think all of us should care about, whether you are hiding something or not. And the question always comes down to one thing: Apple, like them or not like them, they have their stuff encrypted and locked down. And you've seen numerous cases where even police departments can't get into phones and devices and iCloud accounts because Apple doesn't have a way to get into it. The private key is private. That's the whole point of it. Using that kind of encryption, it is not available. So depending, I'm concerned that the government is going to twist the bolts a little bit on Discord, and it's going to be subpoena central just to start getting logs and start with, because here's the thing. There are illegal things going on Discord. There are Discord servers that are nothing. I'm
sure there's file sharing sites, porn sites.
File sharing is one thing, but there are illicit activities in the form of, child pornography and stuff that are rampant on Discord. That stuff absolutely needs to be cracked down upon. No argument there. Yeah. The question is are companies like music licensing firms, Sony Music, are they going to be able to go to Discord, subpoena them, and then start charging people for uploading MP3s or WAV or FLAC files to Discord servers? That to me is where that line is going to be crossed, and that's going to be the question. Is any of this stuff allowed on Discord? I don't know. It's too early to tell.
And then I think a lot of it's going to come out of the court cases that these create, and those will be to whether or not Discord shows and kind of stands their ground and says, we'll give you whatever information, but it'll be interesting to see how much they actually can release. How much are they logging on each person, as you said? So that's going to happen. You want to talk a little bit about the economy right now?
Yeah, please. What you got?
Well, Tech Radar, I read this headline and I was kind of surprised. And I was reading a number of them talking about PC sales are down.
I saw the same thing.
We've talked about PC sales being down, but they said due to cost of living crisis, which is what we've been saying the whole time, so at least they acknowledge it a little bit. But this is good for gamers. I was like, wait a minute. They're claiming that we are going to benefit from this because we can't afford to really. I mean, if you look at the cost of living right now, we've talked week after week about all the different sectors that it's impacting. The number of jobs that are being lost because people are no longer spending on certain services, and thousands of people are being let go, and companies are just are struggling because people don't have the extra money to just throw away on certain types of sales. And so they're trying to say that for gamers and for buyers of these type of things, that there's going to be an overstocked inventory, and that manufacturers are going to discount their prices to try to boost sales. I haven't seen that happening one bit. Tell me when NVIDIA cards are dropping.
Well, okay, NVIDIA is a bad example to use. NVIDIA is a terrible example to use. The premise,
video cards. Video cards have not dropped. The parts that I want to buy, they're not getting cheaper.
They might not be getting cheaper, but they are in stock. I posted a picture in Discord this week. I don't know if you saw it. I had to kill about 15 minutes before a meeting, so I walked into my local Best Buy, and they had a whole bunch of RX and GTX 4000 series cards, the prices were still expensive because but that's not an inflation issue. Those NVIDIA cards are expensive because NVIDIA is jacking up the price on their cards for seemingly no reason. Now, and this analogy though is
there's
correct.
Some competition. Yeah.
This analogy makes sense.
I haven't been seeing it happen yet though. That they keep claiming that there's an overstock and sales are down, but I haven't seen them being like, "Hey, we need to unload all these parts. Here's a much cheaper." Now, AMD did do a price discount when I bought my chip of like $125, I think, or something like that. So it's happening. AMD with their video cards are starting to, and that's what's really going to do it, is these other companies finally lowering their prices, but putting out a similarly competitive product. That's what's going to make NVIDIA make a choice, because NVIDIA is no longer the top dog anymore, but they're still acting like it, and that's what drives me nuts. You would expect the prices overall to drop, and it's like there's NVIDIA cards, and then there's these other ones, and so people are buying these other ones. Sure, there's NVIDIAs in stock, but the other ones that are the reasonable prices are not anymore.
Yeah, I'm not truly understanding NVIDIA's business model. Maybe we'll figure it out at some point. This goes along nicely. I saw this article yesterday. Mac sales are also down 40%. This is just Mac sales. And it goes through and notes that while generally PC sales had been down for the last couple of quarters, Apple was kind of the trend buster, and while they were down, they weren't down as much, and now they're right in the same ballpark with everybody else with the prices being down. It makes total sense. You and I have been tracking this for months. Unfortunately, I think the headline's a little misleading, and some of these things are. There's no such thing as PC sales can be described as multiple things. PC sales could be an entire pre-built computer. PC sales can be a power supply, a RAM, hard drive, CPUs, coolers, cases. I mean, there's so many different things. So, if you are Cooler Master, for example, and you're way overstocked, Cooler Master might run a deal to try and clear out some inventory. Does that mean that the entire industry is overstocked and is going to be offering deep discounts? No, but you might see it in certain elements. And I'll tell you what, it's so hard to tell with components outside of GPUs and CPUs. You go on Amazon, Brian, and every time I went on Amazon yesterday to buy Weed Whacker line for my Weed Whacker, and the third result I came upon, 10% off. Click the coupon, you get a 10% discount. I don't freaking know why. It's just it was on sale. I can't explain why. So you see that stuff on Amazon all the time anyway. It's very hard to tell when there's actually a discount or not, because everything
whether or not it's a good deal. And that's
it makes it incredibly
frustrating because I don't feel like I go to the computer section. It's like, oh, everything is much more reasonable. It's just there's such a fluctuation in the pricing. Where I just hope that some of this brings everything back to more of a normal level, where you can build a computer for like $1,000 and it's a good computer, or $1,200. That's what you could do back 10 years ago, right? $1,200, you could build yourself a really nice computer. Now you can get a decent video card and a CPU, maybe. But the rest of the parts are going to start being additional money above that.
It's a lot better than it used to be in the last couple of years. I'll say that. Is it perfect? No. Is it ideal? No, probably not. But it is a whole hell of a lot better than it was. I'm just pulling up my picture here from Best Buy. I could get a 3080 for about $400. They had some 3060s for about $270. I'm not buying a 3060, but so they have seemingly come down in price.
So it's starting to.
Yeah, and a lot of that was supply and demand, and we're starting to see that level off now. And unfortunately, from my vantage point, not as an economist, but somebody that follows this stuff pretty close day in and day out, it seems to me that we are rapidly approaching some serious economic uncertainty, and that is not good. This is a leisure industry. And that is going to it's going to hurt a lot of folks, but it is what it is. I mean, that's what we've chosen.
one of the downsides of what we're going into is that a lot of the new types of products and the money would go into finding new and better things isn't available anymore. So you get a little stagnant in the improvements that you see across products. Now, I think that'll, the prices will level out and kind of have, here's the new, what things are, and it's less of a constant chase for the top price. But I think that, the downside is from economies like this, we're not going to see advancements in the cool things that we like to buy happening as much. You're going to have continued making of the current and what's new now until things start to pick up and there's money again. And so I guess that, that is the downside. So we'll see. Now, one issue, we talked about this when we were talking about France, however many episodes ago, is companies like Google, Amazon are having issues downsizing in Europe because of the strict labor laws. Remember, I talked about France and how you can't fire somebody, unless it's some ridiculous things. You can't fire people in France. So the problem is they don't hire young people, and they end up just hiring older people. And so then now when they raise the retirement age, so people that are older have, work 2 years longer, they all freak out. So here you've got these companies that here have let go, thousands of people. In Europe, where companies don't have as much freedom, they're not allowed to. Like in Germany and France, you're not allowed to cut that employees like that. Google has around 1,600 employees in Paris, and they have a decent number of employees there, and they can't let them go. And it comes down to these unions and the right, I guess, employee rights laws that a lot of these places have. But look at what the result ends up being.
There's some of this crap Paris. In the U.S. with right to work and things like that,
to a point.
Yeah.
But here in Idaho, and I think in North Carolina as well, you said before, that it's a right to work, or they can fire you for whatever reason they see fit.
Yeah, but there's two different things. There's two different things with that. There's no reason for it, and then there's right to work, where right to work, the way I understand, if you're part of a union, or if there's a union.
Oh, okay, so that's the opposite side of it.
So you want to be in a right to work state, meaning that if you're part of a union, Brian, and your union says we're going on strike, you have the right to work. The union can't force you from working. There are states that are not right to work states,
else.
Like Wisconsin, where if your union strikes, you're SOL. You literally can't work, and it's not the same thing that's going on in Europe, but it's this similar concept of essentially either locking out the company or locking out the consumer, or in this case, the employee, on what they can or can't do.
Yeah, and here the problem is when you can't fire somebody for a company like this, it's going to put them out of business eventually. Well,
sure.
What they should have done is not hire so many people in chasing whatever it was. I talked about this weeks ago, where because they were chasing, the money was good for a short period of time, they started hiring people like crazy. Well, when that dies down, then all of a sudden they're firing people like crazy. That's just how it works. Well, over there, if they hire people like crazy, you can't fire people like crazy either. So it's a much more consistent for the employees, but they're going to be very different in how they hire people as well, because as I said, in France, they won't hire young people. And it actually ends up hurting the employment rates because companies they're not willing to hire people and take risks like they would here in the United States in a lot of areas. And so, these are not as free state countries. I definitely wouldn't want to live in France, and I don't like the labor laws of France because look at what it does to the economy. Look at what it does to people's mindsets. And that seems to be going on over there. So we'll see how that affects those companies. They may the better result may be just to get offices out of those countries. Say, well, we're not, not that you can fire them, but hey, you can transfer to the United States, and guess what? Then we'll have the option to fire you there. I mean, that's what it comes down to. transfer them. Say, hey, we're moving our office. You're not fired. You can transfer over there, and then when you get there, they'll have the right to fire you if they want to.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. Ridiculous government regulation on employment law has a negative impact. Amazing.
Yep. And that's what happens. All right. So we got a little bit of an update from last week.
Yes.
We were talking about the new update and everything that was going to happen with not Scorched Earth, Survival Ascended.
Yes. Ark.
And there was a lot of backlash with Ark. Yeah, there was a lot of people that were upset because of the price changes and everything. And now they're kind of backing off from that whole stance. One thing is I think they separated the two products. They were thinking they were doing a service to people by combining the two together. And I think they realize now that not everybody's going to want to buy the other. And so they said our intention behind the original bundle was to provide a package where you essentially got two products for the price of one. In hindsight, not the best move. Our bad. We recognize now how combining Ark Survival Ascended with Ark 2 and requiring further DLC upgrades wasn't optimal. So, I don't know, because with the new version, they've got all these other maps: Fjordur, Ragnarok, Lost Island. All of that would have been separate DLCs. I think.
I guess.
So now what they're going to do, they're going to remaster. Will be sold for $60 for every platform, and will bundle in Scorched Earth, Aberration, Extinction, Genesis Parts 1 and 2, and the community built maps.
So all the DLC
like
for
the
original,
pre-order.
all the original Ark
Yes.
and its DLC for $60.
Yes, because before you wouldn't have gotten the DLCs, and then it'd be like, oh, you want to go on a Scorched Earth map, you're going to have to buy a DLC upgrade. An Aberration map, you're going to have to buy a DLC upgrade.
Okay.
They were going to nickel and dime you again for all of these DLCs.
See. Okay, yeah.
So now you can get your $60 bundle, which is going to be a new version of the game, and then it'll include all of those with it. So,
that's interesting.
I don't understand why they're charging the way they are, like UE5 for DLCs, because all the programming and the work is mostly done in the original upgrade. The DLC is mostly a map. I mean, there is some programming for unique objects that they might have to do in there, but they're not rewriting the game for every single DLC that they have. Now, Genesis Part 1 and 2 has a lot of programming in it that probably is more time intensive, but Scorched Earth doesn't have a lot of programming in it that's making it super unique. Upgrading it to UE5 is not going to be crazy for Scorched Earth. So, I think this is better. I still think $60 for a UE5 upgrade is do it for $30.
Well,
put it in a reasonable wheelhouse.
To me, so what we talked about last week, and the way I still feel about this is they're doing this for two reasons. One of them was to get people to pre-order Ark 2 and have a user base day one, because they had already purchased for $49 both Arks, essentially, right? For $50, you got the original Ark and the new Ark remastered, or Ark 2, and the remastered original Ark. With this now, so you're shutting down the servers, and you're going to force me to the $60 UE5 version, and then a new version is going to come out in 2024, and I'm going to have to pay presumably $40+ for that as well?
Yeah. Well,
that doesn't make any freaking sense.
Yeah. I just think the whole thing, I think they really should have been like, here's Ark 2, and we'll throw in our Ark, UE5 version for a $5, pick up in price or something. If you wanted to bundle the main game, the new Ark 2 version, which is a full price game, and then you wanted to somehow give them something cool for a discount with the UE5 version, do that. But they didn't really label which one was for which. So people are assigning the value to whichever the one they want, and they'll feel like the other one isn't a good deal. So they kind of they painted themselves in a corner.
Yeah, I really don't understand. Even this, I don't understand. To me, and yes, there's a lot of DLC in here, and that's great. But the price doesn't make sense. I don't know why you would charge $60 for the upgrade. And so you're either going to do one of two things here. People are either going to say, well, I really like the original Ark, so I'm just going to buy the upgrade to Ark 1, and I'll just play that and screw Ark 2. Or you'll have people that will just drop off Ark 1 because they shut down the official servers, and they hopefully will buy Ark 2, but maybe they don't. Maybe they're like, you know what? I'm not a big fan of how this company did me, so I'm just not going to touch it at all. This seems to me, this is almost worse than... This to me is almost worse than the original one. I didn't even think about DLC originally, but this is...
Yeah.
You're charging me $60 for a game that came out in 2011?
That I already own all the DLC.
That I already own. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I already own all this. Now, I'm not saying... I get that it takes work to get to UE5, and I'm not saying that should be free. $30, even hell, $40, but it's $59.99? And by the way,
well, they should...
Brian, all this stuff is not available day one. Look at this list right here that's on this website. This stuff, these are the original DLCs. Genesis Part 2 isn't going to be available until Q2 of 2024.
Yeah. Yep.
So that to me is wild.
So, and let me read to you what they said. They said initially when we had our first consider doing the Unreal Engine 5 upgrade, we planned just to port the Switch version of the game and undo the graphical limitations required for that hardware. We weren't going to maximize the potential of the new technology. We weren't going to introduce new gameplay changes, and we weren't going to make the critical design changes that would have had to impact the existing save data. After carefully considering what would be the best outcome for those who enjoy Ark and would want to continue to enjoy it in the years to come, we decided that our initial plan would not be sufficient. We want to provide you with an evergreen classic Ark experience, one that can continue to grow over time on a cleaned up code base, making use of the new technological advancements, not only in the industry, but also in what we are working on with Ark 2. We weren't trying to mislead you in the earlier comments. Our plan and overall intention changed. So you're probably asking, why don't you make these upgrades to the original version of Ark? Frankly, it would not be viable. Many of the changes we're making to Ark Survival Ascended would touch a lot of aspects of the game, would invalidate save data. Some mods may not be functional. Some things may not play the same way as they did before, and we didn't want to change the experience for those who prefer it or are unable to upgrade. But you're taking away their official servers. You're now making it to where if someone says, I host Ark servers, that doesn't mean necessarily that you can get on, right? This creates a split in the community that's going to be pretty big. I figured if they're going to want to make this evergreen experience that people are now on, and so they can get rid of all these old Ark servers that they're running, then sell it for $15-20. Get everybody to do it. You make a decent amount of money, and the community kind of transitions over, and you paid for the work that it took to do that. Like, that to me makes sense. The $60 thing is you're going to have a limited number of people using the public servers that'll slowly grow over time.
Sure.
But most of your current user base who's been playing Ark, obviously they're not as open and willing to spend money on a bunch of new games if they're still playing Ark 10 years, 8 years later.
Yeah.
Right? They're selling to the wrong user base, I think. This user base is less likely to spend $60 and then totally switch.
There's a 0% chance.
At this point.
I mean, I'm not. Yeah. Nobody's buying this. And you know, again, maybe you and I just don't fully have a grasp of what's going on here, because from what we covered last week and what we're covering this week, the two things just don't seem to add up to equal each other. This is not evergreen. This is not the full content catalog available day one. Some of this content is going to be released over time throughout 2024 while Ark 2 is already out. So it's not like you're giving me a remaster of the game and it's available. The only thing that's going to be available at launch is the island, which is the original map, Survival of the Fittest, which is Survival of the Fittest, which is just a game mode on the island in Scorched Earth, and Scorched Earth. Nothing else is going to be available right away. Extinction and Genesis aren't available until 2024.
And this visually better be really good.
I mean, I'm sure it'll look phenomenal.
$60, like it better look like Ark 2.
It will.
And we'll see. I mean, hopefully.
McGrogan.
That may alone make it to where people are willing.
McGrogan is saying in chat, taking notes from Bethesda, cough. Maybe a little bit of Bethesda logic going on here. Thanks for tuning in, McGrogan. Appreciate it. This is just, you've done a couple of things now here, Brian. You have fragmented your community. You've pissed them off seemingly for no reason. Who is, if I could ask this, and maybe we will ask this, who is the clientele for this new Ark Survival Ascended? Who are they selling this to that's going to spend $60? That's what I'm wondering. Is it the hardcore Ark player?
It's going to be the ones that are on dedicated servers that want to go and be, continue what they have done and be the lead.
But they're not going to be able to continue. They're going to have to start over from scratch. So what the hell is
I'm saying?
Starting over from scratch or going to a private server?
It's going to be that race to claim and be the top clan on whatever dedicated server you can get on first.
Oh, man, I don't know.
That's going to be the race initially. So you've got that hardcore set of people that are willing to do that. And then you have the people who've got some money to blow, who enjoy playing Ark. And, but the problem is, if you're on a community, is your whole community moving? Because our Ark servers, I'm assuming they're definitely not going to be compatible. So how are we going to make that decision? We're not going to be catering to any of the new Ark players, right? So, 35,000 players right now.
Yeah, I mean this it's got a good player base still. I can't.
It'll be interesting to see what that goes to after launch.
This is one of the first times I will state on this show I truly have no idea. Because I really don't. I don't understand what the objective or what the goals. I get that they're not wanting to keep up to date the original Ark code base on a shootergame.exe on an older version of an Unreal Engine. I get that. But then if that's the goal, if you're as you noted, if you're trying to migrate people away, then sell it for $30 or $40. I don't understand how you can
make
charge
it feel like
MSRP.
A good deal.
Yeah. If it was $30, I probably still wouldn't buy it anyway. But I might be convinced. I might get coerced by somebody like you, Brian, to be like, hey, everybody's playing Ark on the new Ark. Come on, you lazy bum, buy it. At $60
to play this, you're going to have a decent video card. But that's the problem. Unless you have a good video card.
Take that aside. Yeah. I could be coerced at $30 to maybe buy something for a couple weekends and enjoy and have a good time. There is a 0% chance you will convince me to spend $60. That will not happen. I mean, that's out of the realm of possibilities. It's either that or a brand new AAA game, like the new Ark that's going to be coming out at the same time. That's what I don't understand.
I could probably get you at $15 to $20 to get it, and they could probably get me to buy it just so I'd have it in my library.
$30. Here's the thing: don't sell yourself short. $30 or $40 for a complete remaster of the game is not unbelievable. But
I'd say $15 for the base game, $30 if you want all the DLCs with it.
Maybe. Or 20 and 40. I could swallow that too. I can't get behind $59.99. McGrogan, I'll wait for Ark 2 when it's released and go. I mean, yeah, that's it.
I've spent over $100 on all the DLCs and everything already.
Probably.
I haven't added it all up in my head, but for all these different ones I've already purchased, I paid for those, and now you're wanting to spend $60 and not have any new content.
But
it'll look different, but it's not going to be new.
No, but you're not even right when you say that, Brian. You're not getting all of the content day one. Some of that stuff is not going to be out until 2025. That's the craziest part. So when you're telling me in this crazy ass universe that they've constructed here, you're going to spend $60 on Ark Remastered, and then spend presumably another $40 to $60 on Ark 2. And you're going to leave Ark 2, the brand new game, to go back and play Genesis 1 when that comes out on the Ark Remastered? That doesn't make any sense.
Of something you've probably already played, and you're not getting any new twist to the story.
Precisely. That's why I'm saying I don't understand the point. It's not like day one, every DLC, boom, we're done. That would make sense, at least a little bit more sense. This stuff is staggering out. I'll pull up the chart here again. Some of this content is not going to be available. Genesis Part 2 is Q2 of 2024. You know damn well that's going to get pushed back because they're going to be in the development of a brand new game at the same time.
Yep. And they already pushed back the release date of this one, too.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. But yeah,
it's
they
Q2 of next year.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see is the only thing you can say because nothing else makes any sense.
Yeah. All right. Are we good to roll on?
Yeah, we're out of control.
All right. Well, if you want to find me, get me at Voice Computer on Twitter, at Brian Eldridge on Gab, Parler, Getter, Truth Social. Or you can check out my blog, biteoftech.com. But if you go to our website, infectionpodcast.com, make sure you go and check out our Discord server. Hopefully it's not being logged by the government yet. And you can, and there's the news channel if you want to post some links in the show news. We'll review those before the live show and get some input on the show. You can watch the video form of the podcast on Twitch, YouTube, and Rumble. And also our audio ones at the lower right-hand side, which for whatever platform device you want to listen on, there's a lot of different options there. Those are recorded and then uploaded after the fact. So if you are doing that, then go ahead and check out the show notes as well, where we've got links and different things referring to everything that we discussed during the show. So there's a video and audio player built into there. So if you want to listen and then click a video to see it, what we're talking about when we play videos, it makes it really easy to kind of add to the listening experience. And if you want to support us, there's a support option up top or infectionpodcast.com/support.
Yes, I want to thank our friend UGX Vibe for hitting us up with the 62-month resubscription here on Twitch. Thank you very much, UGX. It is greatly appreciated. And thanks for the continued support of the show. Brian, as always, my friend, it's always an interesting ride. It never, yeah. It's like you get on a roller coaster and you could see the roller coaster. Like it goes from here, it goes up there, it does a little thing, and then it comes back. This show is always you're like, oh, here's the roller coaster, and then you see nothing. You have no idea where it's going, and that's similarly what happens. Appreciate it as always. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, no problem. We'll see you.
Alrighty, folks. So thank you for joining us. And again, thanks to all that have continued to support us here over the last couple of, at this point, more than a couple of years, all over the last years that we've been here on the air. If you missed any portion of the show, you can head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.